1, 2, 3.
Hello, welcome to Rock the Cash Bar. I'm Ben Mowbray.
And I'm Diane Gallagher.
Every week we pick one song and do a deep dive into the lyrics and explain the different ways they've been interpreted.
We will also discuss how the song connected to us on a personal level, focusing on all the embarrassing details.
Glad to have you here. Enjoy the show. Hello, welcome to the Cash Bar. How are you, Diane?
It's good. It's glad to have you back. I went 2 whole weeks without you and I didn't like it.
I'm sorry. I was supposed to go to the river with my workmates. The whole staff from the evil pirate ship Grand Prize was headed off to the river last week. I was supposed to go with them, but then I got very sick. Wow. I had like an upper respiratory infection, I'm told. I was also told that it wasn't likely to be contagious because they swabbed me for everything like pneumonia, bronchitis, COVID, all of that. Everything came back negative. So they were just like, you know how doctors can be where they're just like, they're basically just like, they find like the most polite way to tell you you're terrible.
Oh, they're like, this is on you. So
yeah, that's what they're just like, this doesn't look like it's communicable. It looks like it might be lifestyle related. What do you mean? No. Like obviously like the doctor, she knew that I was a heavy smoker. So she was just like, it might have something to do with the cigarettes. It might have something to do with your vape pen, but it probably has more to do with the environment you live in.
Like, oh, well, besides cigarettes and vape, like what else are you living in mold? Like what's going on?
Once she started hinting around at it, I was like, okay, well, what is it that you mean? She's like, well, cleanliness. I was like, you know what? I do not remember the last time I washed my pillowcases. I don't.
Oh, she's like, you're a dirty bitch. Clean your room.
Yeah, that was definitely. She's like, yeah, you got a lung infection probably because you haven't changed your air filters. You don't do your laundry. Like that kind of thing. She's like, that's likely what it is.
We're bad about our air filters. And I can really tell. I feel like when the dog hair starts really building up around the house and I can't seem to control it. And I'm like, when's the last time we've done anything with the air filters in this house? Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like such a filthy human being. I was like, oh God. Like, as soon as I felt well again, like I did everything. I cleaned every effing thing.
Yeah, the pillowcase things, I think I was bad about it when I was a teenager, but as an adult, I've been like, okay, those have to get washed every week. Pillowcases have to get washed every week.
I do like I'm good about bedspreads and sheets and everything like that because I'm a sweaty sleeper. So I'll do that like once a week, but pillowcases never even occurred to me.
Yeah. We're the one that's like right on your face.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gross. But anyway, the upshot of this whole thing is I'm on steroids.
Woo!
Yeah, I feel fantastic.
That's great.
It was an immediate turnaround. Like I was seriously like, I had bone aches, I had blood screams, I had skin fires. Like all of my symptoms used to be stickers on my skateboard. Like it was really kind of bad. But as soon as they gave me like a cycle, like a 7-day cycle of steroids. And after day 1, like I was like literally down and out. After like a few hours, I was like, no, I feel like Superman. Let's go to the gym.
Wow. That's a great feeling.
Yeah. So I got to figure out a way to I have to find another doctor, figure out the right lies to tell them and get on steroids prescriptions in perpetuity. That's it. That's the drug problem I've decided I want to have.
You have to look up
to prescribe for the drug problem you want, not the drug problem you have.
You have to do some research, like what steroids cures what that I don't have to fake the symptoms to.
Exactly.
I've got a lung infection. Don't look. I just know I do. Yeah. I'm
absolutely certain I could walk into a doctor's office and go, malnutrition. I've got chronic malnutrition. Put me on the roids. That was the other embarrassing thing. Like I'd been sick for a week before I went to the doctor, so they took like my measurements. So they're all right, you're 6'2" and this amount of pounds, and I nearly collapsed.
You're like, I know.
Yeah, like I'm usually like barely like I'm right in the sickly range, but just sort of above, like I'm knocking on the door, whatever. But yeah, I was 10 pounds lighter than I usually am. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Dang it. Are you fat phobic? That's the thing I've learned with my friends who've been skinny their whole life. When they gain like a tiny bit of weight, they're like, oh no. And they go on like a Whole30. And I'm like, bitch, you weigh 100 pounds. Why are you doing Whole30? It's because they freak out if they have any fat.
I'm absolutely the other way around. Like I am thrilled when I gain weight. If I'm heavier, even if it's like doughy, fatty, heavy, like I don't care. I just want to put on some pounds.
Wow. All right.
The exact opposite. It's entirely due to it's lifestyle and habits. I am like cigarettes are an appetite depressant. Caffeine is an appetite depressant. Right. My schedule is weirdly all over the place. I work 2 nights a week where that's basically all night, and then the rest are proper days. So I'll miss dinner and then I'll miss breakfast because I'm sleeping in. So I'll eat once a day, and it just can't keep any weight on that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing I do miss about smoking is I was 20 pounds lighter because food wasn't a big deal. I just smoked.
Smoking's gross. Anyway, we have some sad business to discuss. We had there was a dream guest that I wanted to have on the podcast for the longest time. Particularly, it wrapped up after we did, murder ballads and some Americana stuff. John Nova Lomax was a writer for the Houston Press, for Texas Monthly, for Texas Highways, and the Houston Press. He was a music editor at the Houston Press. He passed away on Monday. His family was the Lomax family his grandfather is basically, I don't know how to describe him. He's more or less the father of American folk music. Not that he was a writer or a performer. He was a chronicler. He got paid during the Depression. He got government loans to go out and make recordings of Leighton Hopkins and all of these, blues musicians and folk musicians, that he ended up, that basically became the American canon. If it wasn't for John Nova Lomax's grandfather, we wouldn't have those recordings. He literally went to prisons and went and found these blues musicians and recorded them, and brought their legacy to life. His son, John Lomax III, was a manager. He managed like Steve Earle and a bunch of other guys like that. So his son, John Nova Lomax, was a music writer. Who kind of, grew up around those guys. I really wanted to have John Nova Lomax on our podcast as a guest. I didn't know he was ill. So I looked him up on social media, and I'd been sending him messages just like, hey, I do this tiny little podcast. We're based out of Houston. We'd love to have you on. I never heard anything back from him. I don't know if he saw any of those messages. He'd apparently been very sick, for a long time. And that was amongst the people who knew him. That was a known. I should have known that as I was researching and I shouldn't have been pestering him in his final days to come on the podcast, but shit happens. Anyway, R.I.P. John Nova Lomax. Read some of his books. He wrote a book about dive bars that was published as just Houston Dives, and it's a great book. I think that got published in 2011. And then he also co-authored a book called Murder and Mayhem in the Bayou City with former Houston comic and now Houston historian Mike Mance, who would also be a great guy to have on the podcast. Yeah,
for sure.
So,
oh man.
So sorry to lose John Nova Lomax. He really was an incredible writer, and from everything that I've been reading, the Houston Press music articles since I was a very young kid. So I've always sort of known his name. And sorry that he's gone.
I want both of those books, especially the dive bar one. Like, it's got to talk about Lolas and stuff.
It talks about all of those bars. Yeah, it's really, really, and then a whole bunch that you haven't heard of, and a whole bunch that are long gone now because it was published 12 years ago.
Yeah. That's fun. R.I.P. That sucks because I know you really wanted to get him on here.
I desperately wanted to have him on the show. I really wanted to. He could. I mean, we talk about it all the time. We are not music experts. This is not a music expert podcast. We don't know shit. It would have been great to have a guy like that on.
Been nice to have one every now and then.
Who knows like local music chapter and verse. I guess it's kind of a coincidence. I mean, it certainly wasn't the plan, but we're going to do local music legend, Mr. Lyle Lovett today.
Yes.
Lyle Lovett is from Klein, Texas. And if you're not from the Houston area and you hear Lyle Lovett talk about his little town of Klein, Texas, you probably think about like a real small, like Texas
Friendswood.
Yeah, with a little main street going through it. Like, that's not really what it is anymore. Lyle Lovett makes the joke, just like, I grew up in the country, but now it's the city, and I didn't move.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get annoyed when I was doing the research. They're like, Klein is a small town outside of Houston. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's an unincorporated area that is very definitely within Houston city limits.
It was basically, I'm from Klein, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, where I went to high school, Klein, the school district was the one that butted up against ours. So I partied with all the Klein people. It's very, very much in the city. It would be like saying Chelsea is outside of Manhattan, New York. Like, no, it's directly in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and
it is Manhattan.
yeah. And another famous Klein resident is Jim Parsons. He's from Klein
I didn't know he
well.
was from there too.
Yeah, it's more of a neighborhood. It's not, I mean, it's not even a town. I mean, Spring is more of a town versus Klein, and that's kind of on the outside, barely on the outskirts of Houston.
Mm-hmm. And Spring Branch has its own police force, so that's even more of a town.
Yeah.
Ooh, it has its own notorious police force.
Yeah. Are they notorious?
In Spring Branch, the owners told me, like, don't drive on that road. When you're driving home, do not drive on this road.
You'll get pulled over.
Yeah, they will pick you up. And we know what your habits are, Mr. Mowbray. You of the filthy upper respiratory diseases.
You and your cigarettes.
Lyle Lovett, now, just by virtue of the sort of the age that I am and the life that he's lived, I'm really hard pressed to think of a performer or an artist my personal perception of him has changed the most over the course of the time that I've been aware of him. And it's, I'm not blaming him for it or anything like that, but like Lyle, I first heard of Lyle Lovett when he married Julia Roberts. Like that was my first. Yeah, that was my first brush with him. I was not aware of Texas singer-songwriter Lyle Lovett until all of a sudden the Hollywood sweetheart Julia Roberts was married to this weird Texas singer-songwriter. Yeah. And all we knew about him was that he had that weird curly pompadour. He had that strange, craggy Abe Lincoln face. Yeah. And he was just it was weird. It was a weird, and again, like I was young. Like I think I was 11 or 12 when they got married. So I was kind of a judgy kid. Like I certainly wasn't into country music because I grew up in the country and I didn't like those country kids. Yeah. We weren't supposed to listen to country music. It was dopey and stupid, but it was also strong and masculine in ways that Lyle Lovett in his introduction to me didn't present himself as. You know what I mean? Like, because Willie Nelson, his wife would tie him to the bed and beat him with broomsticks because he'd come home drunk. You're like, oh, that's Willie the Rebel. That's country music. That's what it's supposed to be about. Waylon Jennings is snorting cocaine. Chris Christopherson is landing helicopters on Johnny Cash's property. All these like legendary stories. And then all of a sudden, like, here comes Lyle Lovett, who just seems like he's slavishly chasing after the beautiful Hollywood star. It didn't have that country music masculinity or at least that didn't arrive in my ear the way that Lyle Lovett really should have. And I kind of regret that.
I feel bad not knowing more about him before this week. And there's not a whole lot of research on him. I still don't feel like I know him. But what I did do is finally listen to his music. And I was like, oh, shit. Oh, he's great. Yep, and his voice does not match the way he looks. Like if you never knew him and you just played one of his songs for somebody, they would think they were listening to like a Keith Urban or something, like a really young, good-looking guy in his 20s. And then you'd be like, well, here's what he looks like. You'd be like, what? That doesn't match.
That's what's fascinating about Lyle Lovett, too. So you read about it, and it's not just by virtue that he was married to peak Julia Roberts that kind of gives him this sex god sort of image. But you talk like the way that women respond to Lyle Lovett is totally unexpected. You know, like he's like, no, he's not conventionally attractive, but because he's such a gentleman, because he's so devoted to the task at hand, because he's so self-sacrificing. He goes on tour with this large band. It's a 15-piece band. He basically does like two different, like he goes out with a 3-piece or a 4-piece, but then he likes to go out with the big 15-piece band. He doesn't make any money until like the 7th show. It's because to get everybody on the road, you got to pay 15 musicians, you've got to pay roadies, you got to pay bus drivers and everything like that. And he's Lyle Lovett. Like he's famous, he's popular, but he's not selling out stadiums. Right. Like you go see Lyle Lovett, you're probably going like 10,000 is probably a very big show for Lyle Lovett, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I remember when he married Julia Roberts and most people didn't know who he was and they saw the picture. Everybody's like, what? But I was like, take like 10 minutes to get to know him, and you'll be like, okay, I see.
Yeah, I get it now.
I can be
absolutely
swayed.
get it now. Yeah. And that's obviously he feels real to me because I'm a Houstonian. I live in Houston. You know, like it makes, like, Lyle might look absurd if you're from New York or you're from California, but like I've been on stage at the Continental Club, and as I was standing on stage, like, Lyle has been here. You go to the Mucky Duck, like,
Yeah.
Lyle has been through here. Like, you can see his path. You
Yeah.
know, it's right there for you and me. Like, the places we go at night, Lyle used to play those places.
Right. Yeah.
You can totally, you feel like these are the sidewalks that he walks on. Like, he is a local boy. He is a local hero.
Yeah, very much so.
And that makes me feel real to me. And also, his voice is it's one of those weird voice. Like, it's a beautiful singing voice, but it's also largely unremarkable. You know, he doesn't have the twang. He's not hoarse voiced or anything like that. It's just a very plain, crystal clear, delightful singing voice.
When you look at him, you would think he's going to sound like Willie or something, but no, he's just has a clean, clear, wonderful singing voice.
Which is bizarre, because when you think of those country, like Willie has that. Is Willie a tenor? I don't want to use the wrong words. It doesn't matter. But he's just got that silky smooth. He hits notes that nobody else can hit, and he holds them for longer than anybody else can hit them. And he's just got that plaintive, like, there's just that sadness in Willie's singing that just gets you every time. Johnny Cash had that rolling baritone, like a freight train leaving the station. You know, you think of these classic country music guys, they have that very, very distinctive voice. Lyle doesn't. All Lyle has is just a crystal clear as a bell, lovely, articulate singing voice.
And I think because his voice is the way it is, he didn't just stick to the country genre. He got moved into, like, what did they say, like gospel and jazz and other stuff. Like you couldn't just pin him down to that genre.
Yeah, he's like, I think of him as weirdly like a cabaret singer. Like he's like a Greenwich Village sort of type to me. Like, when I look at him and I listen to especially his big band or his large band music, that's what I think of. And it's like, no, this guy's from a small Texas town just outside of Houston. So he comes to the cabaret, like the almost like the classic like 1950s supper club thing via the Texas cattle ranching community.
Right.
Right. It's just such an odd, delightful mashup. You just can't not respond to it.
Yeah. Well, what made you choose this song?
Because it's so delightful. Like, it's just such a weird, happy. There's so much going on in this song. We're going to go through the lyrics. Like it. The first time I heard it, I thought it was just like. I honestly thought that, like, Lyle had written this song to, like, entertain a nephew or something like that.
Right.
Like, I thought, oh, this is a song that he's playing to, like, an 8-year-old boy. But the more that I listened to it, and the more I kind of got into the lyrics, I realized that there's a lot more going on there than just that. You know, it's what he's done is delightful. There was an essay that I read that really informed my opinion on this song. So I'll make sure that guy gets credit for it when we get to that point.
Okay.
But anyway, we're going to do If I Had a Boat by Lyle Lovett. It was off his second album called Pontiac. And if you think that I'm pulling Lyle Lovett facts out of my ass, I most certainly am. I know 1,000% more about Lyle Lovett today than I did 2 weeks ago.
All right.
This is not coming from a place of honest fanhood. It is coming from a place of a little bit of research and extending a bit of love to a local legend. So thank you very much, Mr. Lyle Lovett. This is If I Had a Boat by Lyle Lovett.
And if I had a boat, I'd go out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. And we could all together go out on the ocean, set me up on my pony, on my boat.
If I had a boat, I'd go out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. Like, you do what?
Say what?
Horses famously don't get on boats. Certainly not on boats the size that a guy like Lyle Lovett is going to buy. Like, you need a very, very big boat if you're going to put a pony on it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not putting him on the bass boat.
Yeah, you're not putting him on the bass boat. You're not putting him on the ski boat. Like, you're definitely not putting him in the rowboat. Although that would be a hell of an adventure. Yeah.
I don't even think it wants to go on the yacht.
So the song is fanciful to start off with. And we could all together go out on the ocean, me upon my pony on my boat.
It's a really funny visual.
It is a really funny visual, but it's also super inspiring. Like it's almost a mantra, you know.
I love the
Since I
idea
started
of like,
listening,
go ahead.
well, it really does help deflate any problem that you have going on in your head. Like I've been using that as my, like, anytime I get stressed out or I get angry or I'm worried about something, I'm just like, deep breath, me upon my boat, or me upon my pony on my boat. There you go. I think that this song, especially the chorus, and this turns into the chorus. It's the first verse, but it becomes the chorus. It's the other unique. It kind of inverts the songwriting process a little bit. It opens with the chorus. You don't know it's the chorus. You find out later it's the chorus. It's a little bit of a reveal there. But yeah, right. I've been telling myself, just like anytime we from me upon my pony on the boat. It's his happy place. This song is his happy place. Like it's absurd to ride a horse onto a boat, but damn, that would be fun.
The imagery is so calming and opposite of reality. Like I imagine a canoe with a very calm pony standing on it, with a calm cowboy sitting on the pony. Yeah. And in reality, everybody's flailing and drowning. Like that doesn't work.
And it would, because Lyle Lovett would have like the most tranquil horse. Like, you know, like he's like that horse gets an apple every morning. Lyle talks to it, brushes it.
Yes.
There's a strong bond. Yeah. There's a strong bond between Lyle Lovett and his horse. His horse. Not the horse that broke his leg so damn badly a couple of years ago. That wasn't his horse. That was his uncle's horse. All right. Lyle Lovett's horse would never treat Lyle that way. 20
places. It broke his legs in 20 places. Whoo.
The fuck out. And he wasn't a young man when it happened to him. No. He broke his leg in 20 places when he was in his late 50s, and it was ugly. Like he was pinned up against the fence, like, and his uncle had to like figure out a way to like rodeo clown the horse away from him, and then Lyle's just lying there with a leg busted to smithereens.
His skinny little leg. He's not a big tough guy either. Like,
hey, skinny guys can be tough.
I mean, right. I'm just saying he doesn't have a whole lot of football player muscle to cushion that blow to his bones.
Not a lot of meat holding those bones together. When it shatters, it shatters. He's like Mr. Glass.
Yes.
This is where the song gets fun, is in the verses. All right. So
now if I were Roy Rogers, I'd sure enough be single. I couldn't bring myself to marry an old Dale. Just be me and Trevor. We'll go riding through them movies, then we'd buy a boat and on the sea we'd sail.
If I were Roy Rogers, I'd sure enough be single. I couldn't bring myself to marrying old Dale. So he's like, the first verse, it definitely sounds like childish and going away to a happy place. Right. And this one still is, because Roy Rogers, you have to be a certain age. I know Roy Rogers. I've seen some Roy Rogers, but Roy Rogers, I'm 43. Roy Rogers has been a thing of the past for a long, long time for me.
Yeah. I only know the name. He's an old cowboy, and he was isn't he the male version of the Virgin drink? Like you could get a Shirley Temple or a Roy Rogers when you were a kid. Yeah. What's in the Roy Rogers? Shirley Temple was like Sprite and grenadine.
Well, no, the Shirley Temple is Sprite and grenadine. I think a Roy Rogers is cherry Coke. I think.
Okay.
I could be very wrong about that. And for a guy who's about to celebrate his 25th bartending anniversary, that's an embarrassing thing not to know.
Well, I don't think kids are coming into your bar ordering that either. So that's more of an Applebee's order.
I got my start at the Olive Garden. I should know what a Roy Rogers is. People are yelling at their phones right now. I couldn't bring myself to marrying old Dale. Old Dale was Roy Rogers' wife. It'd just be me and Trigger. We'd go riding through them. What is it? It'd just be me and Trigger. Yeah, we'd go riding through them movies. Then we'd buy a boat, and on the sea we'd sail. So he wants to take Roy Rogers' horse into his happy place with him.
Why can't
he's not getting married? Damn it!
Why? Yeah, is it Dale specific, or he just doesn't want to get married?
I think he just doesn't want to get married.
Okay.
Like he just doesn't like. I think what he's doing, like I say, is his happy place. So what he's doing is he's making sure there's nothing in his happy place that could even threaten to make him unhappy. And I hate to say this, Diane, but the biggest threat to a man's happiness, unfortunately, is the obligations and responsibilities he has towards his lady and his family.
Yeah. Dang it. I don't know why so many of you guys do it. Are we really just that what's the word, convincing?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's a huge, big question. I'm not married. I never have been, and I don't have children. So maybe I'm the wrong guy to ask. But like, I was thinking about it, like at 43, like I'm still like I don't know if I want children or not. Like, well, I think you've already answered the question.
I know.
It's getting kind of late in the game.
No, it's not. What, Robert De Niro's, how old is he? And he just fathered a new child.
He's 80 and he just had his 7th kid. Yeah.
That's the annoying thing. Sarah Talamos just talked about this on her podcast where she announced her pregnancy. Congratulations, Sarah.
Congratulations, Sarah.
And they talked about, like, she's like annoyed that, you know, women at 35, they start saying that we have, I can never remember the word when I need to, but basically elderly eggs. Like, we're in a, like, you're like ancient and you're trying to have a baby, you stupid bitch. And we're like, men's sperm is good forever. I mean,
I had a friend who had a baby at 38, which I think is around the time that you had your baby.
I got pregnant at 35.
35?
Had him at 36.
Her pregnancy at 38 was described as a geriatric pregnancy.
Geriatric, that's the word.
Yeah.
And it makes you just like, the first time you hear it, you just want to slap the nurse in the face. Like, what'd you just say to
me? What are you talking about? Yeah.
Do not call me geriatric at 35. It's when I looked my best. But like, you know, your eggs just start falling apart and you're just like, it makes you just mad at nature. It's like, and these girls are starting their periods earlier and earlier, like 10 years old. It's like biology and nature is like, no, knock them up now. You're like, stop. What's happening? That means her eggs are going to be geriatric at 25.
It's kind of encouraging in a way, because I guess that means that like as a race, like we're progressing emotionally and spiritually further than we are physically.
Yes.
Like, I know I'm being like ridiculous, but that does sort of feel that way. Like we're sort of like we're outgrowing our physical vessels.
Yes. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I don't want to get off on that tangent. But again, congratulations, Sarah and Joe. I'm very happy for you.
And then it goes into the chorus again, which sounds like it was the first verse. But, and if I had a boat, I'd go out on the ocean. And if I had a pony, I'd ride him on my boat. And we could all together go out on the ocean, me upon my pony on my boat. Totally his happy place.
Totally his happy place. Just riding his pony on his boat. Which is still such a weird vague. I'm like, why? Where are you going? Why do you need your pony with you on this boat? You got to have your friend with you wherever you're traveling.
Nobody can bother you when you're on the ocean. You're totally isolated. You're completely in control. You're a totally emancipated man when you're on your pony on your boat. That's it. And you got your steed, you got your ship. You are your own man.
The man is happy. This horse is never meant to be on an ocean, is having wild horse anxiety. It doesn't know why it's constantly moving. Getting probably seasick. This horse is not happy.
You're on the ocean. It's surrounded by water. It can't drink. It doesn't understand that. There's a lot going on in that poor horsey head. Worst
day of this horse's life.
Now the mystery masked man was smart. He got himself a Tonto, 'cause Tonto did the dirty work for free. But Tonto, he was smarter, and one day said, Kemosabe, well, kiss my ass, I bought a boat, I'm going out to sea.
The mystery masked man was smart. He got himself a Tonto, because Tonto did the dirty work for free. But Tonto, he was smarter, and one day said, Kemosabe, kiss my ass, I bought a boat, I'm going out to sea. Yeah.
The horse's revenge.
Yep.
Yeah.
But look at what's that, like Tonto has had enough of the Lone Ranger. Like he's just taken up. But by the way, I found this out years ago. Do you know where Kemosabe comes from?
No.
Kemosabe is like, what's the, I can't remember the right word, but it's the Spanish Kino-sabe. So it's like an English Spanish patois, but basically what Tonto and the Indians were saying in a mixture of Spanish and English to each other was the Lone Ranger doesn't understand. He knows savvy.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, Kemosabe means this guy doesn't can get it.
I love it.
Yeah. I love it too. And it goes back into the chorus, and then it comes back for its last verse, and this is where things get really interesting.
And if I were like lightning, I wouldn't need no sneakers. Well, I'd come and go whenever I would please. And I'd scare 'em by the shade tree and scare 'em by the light pole, but would not scare my pony on my boat out on the sea.
And if I were like lightning, I wouldn't need no sneakers. I'd come and go wherever I would please. I'd scare 'em by the shade tree and I'd scare 'em by the light pole, but I would not scare my pony on my boat out on the sea. Of course, he's not going to scare his pony on his boat out on the sea because that's his happy place.
I have no idea what's happening here. What? I wouldn't scare him by the shade tree or the light pole. What?
Well, when lightning strikes, it strikes the tallest tree. It strikes the poles, right? So that's what he's saying. He would, like, if he were like lightning and he could make himself appear or disappear at any place, that's what he would do. He would make sure that he was frightening people. He would make sure that he was scaring them away.
I'm so dumb. When I was reading this, I was thinking if I were like lightning, meaning if I were fast and I would need no sneakers. I thought he just meant if I was a fast runner. I was not connecting it to physical electrical lightning.
I didn't think about the sneakers either. I just thought of it as like a real boyish thing where you just don't want to put pants on, you don't want to put shoes on. You just want to be free. I didn't think of it as a runner, but yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
My brain was kind of spiraling around this idea that this guy, there's a rock column called Reason to Rock that I've run into as we've rehearsed a couple of different songs. This particular article is by a guy named Herb Bowie, and he didn't really dig deep on this song, but he did, I think, absolutely center shoot the bullseye. It's just a short little, like, 300-word essay. I can send you a link to it.
Do our work for us. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, he really did. What he points out is in the first verse, which becomes the chorus, it's very definitely from a child's perspective, right? It's almost like a nursery rhyme. If I had a boat, I'd go out on the ocean. The rhyme scheme is really just the repetition of boat and boat. You know, it's like the way that a very young, like 6-year-old boy might write a poem. Like, boat rhymes with boat, doesn't it, Mom? Like, no, it's the same. Okay, fine.
Yeah. I mean, technically, yes, but yeah, you're cheating. Right. Same word. It feels like the beginning of a Shel Silverstein poem.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It really does. Yeah. But then it gets progressively, this is what Herb Bowie points out, is the song gets progressively darker through the 3 verses. And you start to understand, like what I latched onto was like this song is about Lyle Lovett's happy place. Once I read this essay, I realized, like, oh, this is why I responded to it, because it's much deeper than that. It gets progressively darker and more adult. While the chorus stays very, very much childish and very, very sort of boyhood, it starts talking about progressively darker adult themes, right? And it's really all about how the character, this character that Lyle Lovett is inhabiting in the song, wants to disentangle himself from all of his adult relationships and all of his adult responsibilities and just be on his pony, on his fucking boat. Like, he doesn't want to worry about you people anymore. And that becomes crystal clear in that first verse. If I were Roy Rogers, I'd sure enough be single. He doesn't want a wife. He doesn't want to be a father. He doesn't want the responsibilities of family life, paying bills. I couldn't bring myself to marry an old Dale. Like, he's like, clearly what he's saying is, I don't want these relationships. I don't want to deal with it. He sort of examines it from a friendship perspective when it's Tonto and the Lone Ranger. And Tonto is extricating himself from his obligations to the Lone Ranger, saying, kiss my ass, I bought a boat, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
In the third verse, now he's fucking lightning. Like, he's not even human anymore. Like, he's literally a force of nature. He has escaped the bonds of this mortal coil, and now he will scare people away. He has that power. You know, that's how much he wants to be alone. Like, he's going to scare you when you're under the shady tree. He's going to scare you under your light pole, but he's not going to bother his fanciful version of himself on his pony, on his boat. Like, this is a song entirely about how a man wants to escape the responsibilities of adulthood.
Yeah, completely. And it sounds like in this last verse that he is dead and he's still like, leave me alone in death.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't talk to me. Leave me alone.
And that's what I think makes that song so great. Like, I picked Lyle Lovett because I wanted to know more about Lyle Lovett, and I knew that he was a local guy, and I figured he'd be an interesting character to talk about, and he absolutely is. I honestly found this, like, I am not a Lyle Lovett fan. I don't, I honestly, I don't know if I could have named a Lyle Lovett song
Yeah.
up until a couple of weeks ago. So I literally just did a Google search for Lyle Lovett's best song, and the song called If I Had a Boat came up. I was like, okay. So I read the lyrics. I went, I can do something with that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. But the more I sat with the song, the more I was just like, there's something else going. Like, I thought at first blush, I thought it was just a goofy little feel good song about going to your happy place. But it was just like, there's something else in this. There's something else to it. And it wasn't until I read that essay by Herb Boo, that I realized, like, oh my God, like, that's exactly what this is. And that's why this song resonates with so many people. Like, there's so many guys, whether they know it or not, at the Lyle Lovett show who are going to their happy place and extricating themselves from their relationships that are causing all those troubles.
It's a big cowboy theme. You like the lone ranger, the lone cowboy. Like, they always want to go off and be alone and smoke their cigarettes and eat their beans by their fire and just be alone. And it's like the introvert's mantra, the introvert's theme song too. Like, these people that are loners and just want to be alone.
Which is, it's a strange thing. Like, I have male friends who are married and have kids, and you'll have a beer with them, and like every now and then, like, it'll happen eventually. Like, eventually the conversation will cycle around to, Ben, stay single, man. Like, don't do it. I envy you.
Hey, listen, girls do it too.
Just keep doing what you're doing. You don't want any part of this.
But a lot of girls,
sure? Because I think I do. Like, I don't know that, like, if you're thinking that my life is all footloose and fancy free, well, it is. But that doesn't mean that it's fulfilling. Like,
it depends on the personality type. Like, some people love the chaos. Like, I had one child and I was like, it's all I can handle. It's literally all I can handle. And there are personality types that love the chaos of the big families and the nonstop go, go, go. And I don't have it. I'm not that person. And, so I don't know, when there's guys sitting around saying, like, Corbin will be the guy that'll sit there and tell you, do it. He loves having kids. He loves having a family. He finds it very fulfilling. And I think
these guys do too, but I also think that, but nevertheless, there's a strain in them that wants to escape.
It's work. It's hard. And so, dude, moms want to escape. That's why we drink. Like, because I'm sorry, we get a lot of the load, and we take it on, and we're fucking heroes. But like, there are moments you're like, can I go be like this guy to a mountain cabin alone? That's what I actually want for Mother's Day. Leave me alone for a second.
I can understand why a mother would be jealous of a father and his, like, because I know so many guys, like, in the bartending world or in the restaurant world, where they, they'll have a kid, and then all of a sudden, like, they're picking up shifts everywhere, they're getting second jobs, they're doing, and no doubt that there's financial pressure, on them that they're feeling and they're responding to. But also, just beneath that, there's also no doubt that you're getting out of the house.
Get out of the house.
Yeah.
You think you want to be a stay-at-home mom with kids until you're like looking at your husband, like saying, you get to go to work every day.
Yeah.
That becomes the wording that you use, because the guy will try to pretend like, well, I've just worked such a hard day at work, and you're sitting here like, I used to do that too. It's harder at home with a baby. I know that. Don't act like you don't know that.
That's got to be that's what I think about when it, like, I get scared of it's difficult to talk about. I do have a crush on a single mom. Like, I have a bad crush, and anytime, like, I'm around her and her kid, I'm just like, I'm imagining, like, can I do this? Can I do it? Like, if you're trying to talk yourself into it, then absolutely not. No, you cannot do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also, like, it makes me think, like your love for your child is infinite. I mean, there's no doubt about that, right? Yeah. But your patience absolutely is not. Like, love and patience are completely different things. And you'd think the sheer volume, the infiniteness of your love would mean that your patience is also a hell of a lot longer than it absolutely isn't, is it? Nope.
No. Charlie was home yesterday, and I can talk about this at the end. We had a weird scare in Friendswood ISD. It's the last week of school. Everybody kept their kids home. There was a threat. And I only had him at home for half a day, and I looked at Corbin and I was like, yeah, he's got to go to camps all summer because we argued all day. He can't be in my house all day. I don't have the patience for this. He's getting sassy. He told me to mind my own business at one point.
Do Do you think, and this is a ridiculous hypothetical, but I come from a fairly big family. I've got two
Mm-hmm.
brothers and a sister, and we're all packed in pretty tight. We're all within about 7 years of each other. I grew up in the middle of nowhere in super safe Canada, where, you know, falling out of a tree or bashing your head on a fence post is the only real danger. No stranger danger, no drugs, no traffic, nothing like that. So I just remember when my mom and dad would get upset, would like, go outside and play. Go. It's -25. I don't care. Go sledding. Go outside and play.
That was my childhood.
Do you think that if Charlie had a brother and a sister or siblings, would that make it easier or harder for you?
So much easier. Everyone tells me they understand that having one kid is actually harder because he just comes to me or Corbin with everything. I can't pawn him off. And, you know, I was an only child and my parents told me, go outside. And I did. I went outside. I was gone all day and I played with my neighborhood friends, and my parents never had this thing of like, I have to sit down and be a child and play with my kid all day. They would have been like, hell no, I'm an adult. That sounds boring. Go outside. And I feel guilt of when Charlie wants me to play something with him. I'm like, I don't want to. It's just so mean, but I'm like, no, I'm an adult. I'm 45. I don't want to do that. I'm not interested. And so because we don't have those types of neighborhoods anymore where kids just are all their friends are outside in the street, it becomes iPad. Like, you know, he just is like, all right, I'm just going to do this or play video games. But things have been changing around here. Like, more young kids have moved into the neighborhood, and I've developed friends with the moms on our street, and we have started being like, can't go play, you know, like, you know, getting them together to play. So it's getting a little bit easier. But yeah, those moms agree. They're like, it's harder when you have one because they can't just go bug their brothers and sisters.
Yeah, they don't play independently. They need somebody to talk to. And then I imagine that there's parental guilt that, like, if you are taking some time for yourself or you are busy on a work project or something like that, and you ignore him or you give him the iPad or something like that, you're just like, I'm taking away his crucial social development time. Like,
so
it's got to be. Yeah.
But I also, you know, I talked to my therapist about this nonstop. All of us moms are constantly dealing with guilt. But I'm like, man, he's in school most of the time. He's in camps. I was like, he does get that social interaction and activity. And it's not like I'm never playing with him or stuff. Like, I do, but I just can't do it the amount that he wants. There's a limit. I'm like, okay, that's enough. Like, I can't do this. Bored. I hate it.
No more horsey rides.
Yes. Anyway, big digression.
I do think it's a digression. I think that's what this song is about.
True, it is.
Lyle Lovett
escaping responsibilities. The modern version of this is give the kid the iPad. I find it interesting that Lovett went to Texas A&M, and most people know that's like a big agriculture school, but his major was German and journalism.
Yeah, that was the fascinating thing about his life. Like, you can see, it's the old like Bill Clinton thing where if you see a tortoise on a fence post, it didn't get there by accident. Like, you see Lyle Lovett, and you just think, like, did he just walk out of the Texas night looking like that? Like, no, he started off, he was a journalism student, and the reason that he got into journalism was because he wanted to interview the musicians that were coming through. Because this is in the late 70s, so it's the very tail end of like the outlaw country. So, like, all of those legends are still, like, Guy Clark and Townes Van Zandt and all those guys are still, like, knocking around Austin. So they would come through and play, you know, these singer-songwriter nights in Aggie Land, in College Station and Brenham and places like that. And Lyle Lovett would go and see them because he wanted to be a singer-songwriter himself. And he figured he didn't feel like he was good enough to be their peer, but as a journalist, they would have to sit down and talk to him for an hour.
Really smart.
It was his backdoor entree into that world. At the end, he ended up booking some clubs, you know, around College Station, and then obviously he would start booking himself, you know, as he got better and better, and that's how he sort of made a name for himself. Really that's cool. How he did it. That's the road. That's how one gets from point A to point B.
I do want to mention that it was actually not a horse I'm reading. It was a bull that trampled and broke his leg in 20 places, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's funny, he categorized that incident as, quote, just one of those things.
Yeah.
All right.
The cowboy in him is bone deep, right?
Shit happens.
Broke my leg in 20 places. It weren't nothing.
Yeah, but he's very accomplished. In 1989, he won, or he said he has won 4 Grammy Awards, including best vocal performance in 1999, and his large band in 1996 best country album for the Road to Ensenada. Ensenada, which I'm just like, now I just want to go listen to his whole discography. I want to listen to everything Lyle Lovett, because I was so stunned by his voice. I could not believe that. I was like, that does not match the logo that I think of with him.
Yeah. I want to see him live, and I want to see him in a very small club in Houston.
Yeah.
You gotta believe that Lyle Lovett is going to play the Continental or something some other time, and just be like, it'll just be you, 200 other people, and Lyle.
And you know it's going to sound great. I always think about this, and I've talked about it. Raul Malo, he was the lead singer of the Mavericks, and then like me and Rob Mungle had like this love for him, and we went and saw him at the Continental one time, and he did this acoustic version of Blue Moon that just like, it takes the air out of your lungs. You're just, the whole place was so silent. And then after he finished, Rob was like, gotta be a robot not to cry at that.
I cannot believe that Raul Malo is not like a huge, big star. Like, I absolutely cannot believe it. Like, I don't think that he'd be like a playing stadiums kind of guy, but in terms of just like the emotional connection that voice makes, just the sheer heartbreak, the catharsis of listening to that man sing is incredible.
It's like what Orbison wished his voice sound like. It's so good.
Yeah, and that's crazy high praise. Like, if you've ever heard Roy Orbison, like, that's a legendary voice. But that is, you're not speaking hyperbole. You're speaking fact. Like Roy Orbison would listen to Raul Malo and go, "Why can't I do that?"
Yes. Oh, it's incredible. All right. Is that Lyle Lovett? Did we do that?
I think we Lyle Lovett did it.
All right. Jeremy is sending, we haven't heard from Jeremy in a while, but he's got a 6 Degrees of Lyle Lovett. I haven't heard it yet, but I will put that right here.
Hey friends, welcome to another edition of 6 Degrees, where this week we're going to connect the Clash to Lyle Lovett. A well-regarded songwriter, Lovett appealed on the show Spectacle, showcasing his talents alongside John Prine and that show's host, Elvis Costello, in 2009. No stranger to collaborations, Costello would play alongside Bruce Springsteen, Little Steven, and, of course, Dave Grohl during the Grammys in 2003, playing London Calling to memorialize the passing the year before of Joe Strummer, lead singer of The Clash. So this week went Lyle Costello to The Clash. Back to Dynamite.
Excellent.
And, all right, so you have a deep cut this week?
I do, and it's tied to John Nova Lomax. I read a bunch of articles that were basically, memorials to him or obituaries for John Nova Lomax, and one of them mentioned that John Nova Lomax would advocate strongly for a song called Rock a While, recorded by a Houston guitarist by the name of Goree Carter. Goree is Goree Carter. Okay. It was recorded in 1949. And John Nova Lomax apparently would argue with you until last call that Rock a While is the very first proper rock and roll recording ever in human history.
Feeling good this morning, I feel like I want to rock a while. Feeling good this morning, I feel like I want to rock a while. Come on, boogie with me, baby, cause the stuff is still in style.
Whoa.
That's the rock song, that it was recorded in 1949 by a guy named Goree Carter right here in Houston, Texas.
Big statement. I like that.
I listened to it this morning, and what do I know? Like, I don't know what order these things came out in. 1949, certainly. So that's before Elvis. It's definitely before the Beatles. It's before all the guys that I really know about. And when I listened to it, I was just like, that is rock and roll. That is clearly, definitely what I recognize as rock and roll music. So I'm not going to argue with John Nova Lomax. If he says that's the first rock and roll song, that's the first rock and roll song. That is now gospel to me. The first rock and roll song is called Rock a While by Goree Carter.
Stamp it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Well, it's funny. I had this whole other deep cut that I was going to do, but it does not flow with this episode. So I'm going to hold on to that for another episode. And I'm going to change my mind on the spot and play a clip of Raul Malo singing Blue Moon.
Blue moon, you saw me standing alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. Without a love of my own.
Damn right you are.
I can't talk about it and not play a clip. It's so good. So yeah,
Trigger
it's not
warning, you're gonna cry. Turn it off right now if you don't want to cry.
okay. Speaking of turn it off right now, we got to talk about what we're doing next time. I think this is gonna be another like, Mom, no, not this episode. I'm gonna say the word pussy a lot. So,
We're finally gonna do it. We're gonna call it WAP. We're doing WAP. We're doing wet ass pussy by
I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast. I hate that word. I hate that word for female genitalia. It sounds too much like pus. It sounds like something that's oozing an infection. The one place you never want that to happen. But
no doubt we'll be talking about it quite a bit next week. But okay, what's because every other alternative is far too clinical. Like pussy, at least with the soft S sounds and it's whispered in your ear, there's a sensuality to pussy that's not there in vagina.
I think no, vagina's bad. Flower. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like to call mine my South Virginia. I just like to make you giggle. Yeah, so it's our friend Kelly Butler. So she had quit doing comedy by the time I started. So she goes way back. And you know, she moved to Chicago and she did a little bit there and she lives in LA now and she's visiting Houston now. But you know, she is a comic and still at heart, and her and I both talk about like wanting to get back on stage and doing it again, but like she's going to be a great guest and she's the one that chose this song. So so she has her reasons and her stories for it. Yeah.
It's going to be a good time. And I have seen Cardi B live in concert. So
you have?
I have.
All right. Okay. Well, we're going to record that here in a couple days because I'm actually going back to Disney World next week for my son's birthday. So
good for you. Happy birthday, Charlie.
Happy birthday, Charlie. All right.
And Vogue.
1, 2, 3.
Rock the Cash Bar is produced by Diane Gallagher, music by Chuck Savage and Eddie Hawkins. Special thank you to Jeremy Essig for 6 Degrees and to Sarah Wessling for the Guilty Pleasures vocals. Our website is rockthecashbarpodcast.com, and there you can find links to our Spotify playlist and to our Patreon. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.